Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our backyard. It is Sunday morning in the 30s, so it's pretty cool here. I think this is our last winter hurrah here down along the upper Texas Gulf Coast. I don't know if you can hear the birds, but I walked out so I could do some taping, and they've been chirping. Typically at my two stations, I've got every morning around 40 American goldfinch, so it's pretty fun. Anyway, the reason I'm out here is because life is starting to spring forth from our winter freeze. And so what I have done is I have cut back my tree bed. And I just did this a couple of days ago because it was still overgrown, or I should say was full of the dead branches from the freeze. And as you can see, it's starting to come to life. So when I look here, this is my Salvia leucantha, and it is starting to come back. I need to cut back a little bit more. I can see that I have the slender branches there a little bit too tall. And then I've got the Salvia amistad and the Salvia amante over here that I need to cut back a little bit more, but it's starting to really burst forth. So I knew I had to get out here this week. This week happens to be in our area the last of the frost date. So our last frost date typically is this week in February. And last night it got down to the upper 30s, and I think tonight is supposed to get into the mid 30s. And then after that, the 2-week forecast shows nights in the 50s. So I needed to get out here since life is springing forth, and I did. So this is the tree bed, and I love what I'm seeing. I've got the Greg's mist flower coming up, and let me get a little closer. Even the mounding lantana is starting to come back. So I'm really excited. Here's the salvia. I've got a Nyphophia, which is a red hot poker that I need to possibly move because it gets drowned out in all this salvia. But it's exciting. And then, of course, I have this pot that I really, really love. And this pot is filled with David Verity Kufia. And I do have one that I purchased because this one froze. And I have a new one purchased that I want to put in my pot here. So I'll be doing that also this week. During the freeze, right before the freeze that we had in mid-February, I lined my beds with dried leaves. And you can see the Gabrera daisies are peeking through. And I need to get these leaves out because we've had a lot of rain. And if I don't, it's probably going to rot. So I want to make sure that I get this out within the next day or so. But it's fun to see. Here is one of the passion vines. So it's fun to see stuff starting to sprout and come up. So I have taken a lot of branches out that we will use for composting. And so this is a lot of the salvia that had frozen. And we'll be able to just put that back into our beds. Typically what my husband does is he'll take the lawnmower and crush it up so it's finely, fine small pieces, and that helps in putting it into our composting system that we use. My north bed is coming to life. I had to get out here because when things start to grow like this, bronze fennel is getting nice and it's coming up very nicely. I knew I had to get back and cut out the dead branches, and my bronze fennel is coming up. Thank goodness I got out here and worked on the beds. My misty salvia is coming back. Mystic Spires is coming back. And then on the end here is the bush salvia. And the bush salvia is also doing nicely. So I wanted to, it's earlier than I typically would have come out here to cut back the branches, but this was the time since the new growth has started. And so it was really fun to see how much it's sprung forth. My shade bed has a couple of perennials in it. These perennials I saved. I covered with leaves so they were completely covered, and then I had a couple of layers of frost cloth over. They never missed a beat. These are white veined Dutchman's pipevine, which is a ground cover. And so I had 2 plants last year, and as you can see, I now have planted more. I was able to get more in the summer, and I've planted those in ground because I hope that this whole end of this shade bed will be able to sustain a lot of the caterpillars that this hosts. And the caterpillars are just, well, the caterpillars aren't gorgeous, but the butterflies, oh my goodness, those are the pipevine swallowtails, and they are black and an iridescent blue. I really love them, and so this is why I wanted to dedicate a whole area to this particular plant. And the new growth is exploding forth, and I am really, really pleased to see that. I'm gonna pop over in this area now. For those of you that follow my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of Forsythia sage, and I absolutely love it. It is a salvia, and the salvia is a performer in the fall and winter, and it has that gorgeous yellow stalk. It's harder for me to get, and so I was just absolutely ecstatic to see the new growth that is coming up. I'm going to put at the top of this video the video that I did on this so you can see what it looks like. It grows pretty tall. And the yellow bloom spikes are very long, and the butterflies and hummingbirds really like it. My hummer that I've had 2 hummers here all winter long, and they fed off of it right up until the freeze. It's called Salvia madrensis, and I really, really like it because it's one of the few fall and winter performers for us. And so I'm really tickled to see how much it has come back. I did protect it also with these leaves, so the dried leaves, and it looks like it did the trick this year. Last year I lost lost some, and so this year it's definitely much healthier. So I have a lot of work to do in my shade bed. For those of you that have seen my channel, you know that I'm a huge fan of coleus and caladiums. It's a little bit too early to plant any coleus. I'll be pulling these vines out, the dead coleus that I just have laying on top, predominantly for the bugs. So the birds come through here and pick through here. I haven't decided the coloring scheme that I'm going to use this year, but I am still going to plant coleus in this shade bed. This is crazy to me. Late fall for us is, I think I planted these around the mid-November time frame, and this happens to be dill. Dill is a host plant to the eastern black swallowtail, and so I did want to get dill. I had grown dill a couple of years ago, but what's crazy to me is that it's starting to bloom. This is so fun. It's really a nice, healthy plant that I've got planted in a pot. The reason I put it in a pot is I did have it in ground last year and it just grew massive. It was like 6 feet tall. So I didn't want that again, and I thought, let me just put it in this pot. And so I wanted to see how it would grow and what it would do. And it's blooming. Isn't that fantastic? The other thing I did was I pruned my shrimp plants. They were long and gangly. I pruned those back. You can see some bird poo here, but they're starting to get blooms on them, which is also nice to see. So I cut these back pretty heavily, but I can see the start. Sorry for the bright sun. It is gorgeously sunny today. And so I'm out and I wanted to tape this. So I know the lighting is not ideal, but I love looking out on my patio and seeing the flowers that are just there to greet. And quite frankly, the butterflies and the hummingbirds visit this area regularly because right now there isn't a lot of blooms that are out blooming in mid-February here. So it's fun to see, and it's fun to see the life that these blooms attract. This is my coral porterweed. My hummingbird comes here each day. It is so fun to see them. I have 2 hummingbirds. I've got a ruby-throated hummingbird and a rufous hummingbird that have overwintered with us all winter long. And I saved this pot. I don't like how it has grown, so it's just a jumbled mess, but it has been flowering for me. And I'm keeping it for at least through the early part of the spring before I figure out what I'm going to do with it, just because it has been flowering just really well for me. And those of you also that have seen other videos on my channel, you know, because I am a butterfly and hummingbird gardener, porterweed is one of those plants that I have in my yard because of the nectar that it generates, and it generates and regenerates the nectar all throughout the day. So even though only a small segment along the porterweed is blooming at any given time, and you see there's not many flowers here, but each one of these spikes has flowers. And so My hummingbird is here daily, and it's a lot of fun. And my other plant that is just starting to bloom is my coral honeysuckle vine, which is a native vine. I'm going to get a little closer. And this also is a hummingbird favorite. And there's, probably 6 to 10 clusters all along here that are starting to flower. Not many. But I tell you, they come every single day. To enjoy these blooms. I love this coral honeysuckle. Not only does it provide the blooms, but it also has the berries. And the berries get eaten by the birds. So this will leaf out again. It's got its winter foliage on, which isn't that beautiful, but it will leaf out here shortly. So thanks for joining me this morning on this cool day with the bright sun. I've got plants that I need to get in the ground, but they're not going to go in ground yet. They will soon, just not quite yet. So thank you for joining me. I hope in the next few weeks this garden will have changed dramatically and I'll have a lot more to show. I hope you all have a great day, and I hope to see you again.